Mario Kart's been around forever, and with 10 mainline games now, because yes, Todd does count, it's time for me to do the impossible and rank them all. Honestly, I'm only doing this because I've been half dead for the last 2 weeks, and in another 2 I'm off to university. So this video is basically my filler arc. Subscribe now for the peak content coming soon, and let's get into this. Yes, I'm one of those people who hate on tour. But unlike most, it's not just because it's a mobile game, it's for the love of the game. In fact, I actually ran a channel focused on mobile games, so I know how terrible some of these design choices truly are. First, the microtransactions. Holy, there are a lot of them. It actually scares me how much gambling stuff they shove down kids' throats in this game, as ultimately, they're the target audience. The character unlocks are very expensive and unrewarding. Next, the handling. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not the worst in the series, but it's restrictive and feels like I'm playing Mario Kart for babies. I get why this game is made this way, because it actually is made for babies, but that doesn't mean I have to enjoy it. Lastly, something that really claws at my pickle in this game are the tours themselves. Being the namesake of this game, this is something you'd think they'd handle well. But they decided to put each tour on a 2-week rotation. That means I could wait up to a year to play a track I like, which I know the babies playing this game do not have the attention spans for. Honestly, they could have just made each tour a drop-down list to pick from. You can't even argue this would cause longer matchmaking issues, as you only play versus bots that Nintendo tries to disguise as real. Well, it's a real disgrace. Oh, and by the way, these are my opinions. Don't murder me, just comment your favourite game and call it a day. Anyway, moving on. Let's be real, if Super Mario Kart is your favourite game, you're probably a middle-aged, balding man. If that's you, stop watching this at work, old man. Anyway, now the one Super Mario Kart fan is gone, let's discuss this game. Personally, it's a fun little side thing, but being the first in the series, it doesn't do anything complex. It's like comparing Steamboat Willie to modern Mickey Mouse. It's just not a fair comparison. Super Mario Kart only has 7 relevant characters and a lack of interesting course themes. I get why that's the case, but compared to the others, it doesn't really stack up. Except against Tor, then sure, it does stack up. I don't care enough about that game to fight in its corner. Mario Kart 64 is the next game in the series, and rightly so, it places in the next highest spot in this ranking. My issue with its entry is that the way the game was made is simply so outdated compared to now. The rubber banding on this game is crazy. 1 second you're in first, and the next, you see Luigi turning into a grade 7 missile on the minimap. Alongside that, the controls are simply dreadful. You could call it a skill issue, and yeah, it probably is, but that doesn't make the controls any less dreadful. It's stupid. The controls are horrible, and it makes me sad. I also think this game has one of the weakest track selections to date. Obviously it came before Nitros, so it wasn't particularly brimming with content, but the Nitros aren't all that either. Bowser's Castle, Rainbow Road, and maybe Koopa Troopa Beach are the only tracks I could actually give a fuck about. I'm about to ruin the engagement on this video with this next take. I don't have this opinion to be different, or because of a skill issue, but for a general, burning disgust towards this game. I know you guys will hate me for this, but I don't care. What is the game I placed in 7th? Mario Kart Wii. Welcome to my world, bitches. Now this game isn't awful, like it beat 3 of the 9 other options, but I do think it's a flawed rendition for the series, which is often glazed simply because it was a childhood favourite of many vocal members of the community, which is something I'd never do. First, the graphics may genuinely be the worst out of all the 3D entries for the series. It's so grey and icky and frankly sticks out to me as a worse Double Dash looking game. This may also be a hot take, but I don't think Wii actually added much to the series. We got bikes, half pipes, 12 races and Funky Kong. While I will admit 12 races was actually pretty huge and opened a lot of doors for directions Nintendo could take the franchise, bikes and half pipes don't feel as impactful as they could have been and were literally removed in the next game. Bikes feel annoying to handle, and if they weren't OP in that game, I'd completely avoid them. While on the topic of avoiding things, oh my god, the items suck. The thundercloud alone makes me want to stop playing the second I get it. Like, this shit genuinely makes me want to commit horrific acts that I cannot name any further. The only positive impact I can think of that this game had was the modding community, who expanded this game to become pretty huge. Unfortunately, I think having to mod a game to make it decent means the foundation of the base game is lacking. Anyways, moving on. Mario Kart 7 is good. It sets up most of what modern Mario Kart is: kart customization, gliders, underwater driving, all of which led to more creative track design. So why is it only at 6? Because 8 does literally everything 7 does, but shinier and in HD. People like to group Mario Kart in pairs. SNES and 64 were the starters, GBA and GameCube were the experimental ones, DS and Wii were the polished mainstream entries, and Tour and World the whole Journey era. But when you hit 7 and 8, the comparison gets brutal. 8 just steals everything from 7 and leaves it pretty expendable. Well, everything except Honey Queen, because fuck Honey Queen. That said, 7 is one of the best track lists in the series. Daisy Hills alone is peak fiction. Those goats make me happy. Right in the middle, we've got Mario Kart Super Circuit. And honestly, this spot makes sense for the game. The community and Nintendo both kind of forget its existence. It only got one remake in the basic retros for 8, and then it got nothing in World. But don't worry, Sir Musty and the 1.5 other Super Circuit fans, I've got you covered. Firstly, I'd personally say every single track in this game, except Snowland because of the stupid screen shake that everyone always picks on this game for, are really solid additions. Ribbon Road, Sky Garden, Rainbow Road are all Super Circuit fun to race on specifically. Alongside this, we've got Super Mario Kart at home here, and literally get all of those tracks remade. Does that make the original SNES game pointless to revisit? Kind of. Is that a bad thing? Not really. The visuals are also very unique. Very pixely, very bouncy, very early 2000s GBA vibe. Honestly, it's a really charming look, and I'm glad World brought some of that energy back. Overall, Super Circuit is a pretty great game that's worth trying out if you've been under the Super Circuit irrelevancy propaganda till now. It's nothing too special, but it's a fun time. Everything from this point though is something special, and it all S tier to me. I've really struggled with where to put Mario Kart World. It's the newest entry, and also the most experimental, going for that open world vibe every series seems to be trying. And I think it works, just not to the extent Nintendo thinks it does. First off, I think pointing out that this game has the least tracks since retros were introduced is necessary. Technically, Peach Stadium and Crown City have 2 variants. Shut it! It still only has 30 tracks, which is an astonishing low when compared to its predecessor's 36. What makes this hurt even more is that some of them just aren't that good. Moo Moo Meadows again, and Peach Stadium are just boring. That said, when World gets it right, it really gets it right. Boo Cinema, because yes, I'm one of those people, Toad's Factory, Airship Fortress, and Great Question Block Ruins have theming and track elements which are some of the best the series has to offer. It makes the ranking for this game impossible to pinpoint, as it always goes from boring filler and actual peak constantly. And of course, Nintendo are being nincompoops with online as usual. In World, you can either race in the normal 3-lap format or play section-based races that link 2 tracks together. Naturally, most people prefer the 3-lap tracks, so Nintendo being Nintendo made them less common. So yeah, Mario Kart World is a fun, fresh entry with an amazing knockout tour mode, gorgeous visuals, and a surprisingly entertaining world to explore. But with the low track count, filler courses, and Nintendo's usual antics sprinkled in, it just can't crack the top 3. Double Dash. Where do I even start? This is the experimental Mario Kart. It nailed the concept so hard that I'm shocked Nintendo never brought it back. 2 races per kart meant character-specific items and unique pairings, and the roster is one of the best in the series. But beyond the gimmick, this game just oozes charm. Everything has that classic Mario look of big eyes, goofy smiles, and the whole game feels bouncy and alive. And while the controls are slippery and tough to master, it actually enhances the experience. It's challenging in a fun way, like a slip and slide. unlike 64 where I'm just driving into every car I come across on the freeway. If you can't tell, I love Double Dash. It's chaotic, it's charming, and it's unlike anything else in the series. The only downside is that Nintendo abandoned the idea entirely. Even a Double Dash mode in 8 would have been incredible, but as it stands, this one stays a unique gem. You know how I said people only put Wii at the top because they grew up with it? Yeah, well, DS is my version of that. So yes, this is biased, but at least I admit it. First off, the controls. This is my favourite Mario Kart to play, period. Snaking was born here, and it became something I was determined to master. Giving myself friction burns as I jerk my joystick violently from side to side will never cease to be a favourite childhood memory of mine. As well as this, I think Mario Kart DS is the best set of nitros in the series. Many will disagree here. While I do agree that Figure 8 Circuit, Yoshi Falls, Desert Hills, and DK Pass all fall a little short. Tracks like TikTok Clock, Waluigi Pinball, Airship Fortress, Luigi's Mansion, Delfino Square, and Bowser's Castle more than make up for this. All the Nitro Grand Prix are a joy to play through. This game also introduced retro tracks, and it also has a ton of bangers such as Sky Garden and Yoshi Circuit as the last track in the game. Yeah, I admit the retros suck, but we probably wouldn't have gotten them in Wii or any future games if they weren't introduced here. Then there's Mission Mode, which was such a wild addition for 2005. It wasn't hundreds of hours of playtime, but it gave us extra content outside of racing, something we'd expect to receive nowadays. And Battle Mode peaked right here. Nothing beats bullying CPUs by sending them into the stratosphere as Bowser in Twilight House, while running out of breath, puffing into the DS microphone to inflate your balloons. You are obligated to subscribe if that's a relatable childhood experience for you as well. If that wasn't enough to convince you, we also got Rob as a playable character, and Dry Bones in a fucking tank. That is super duper awesome, guys, come on. Yeah, if you can't tell, I love this game so much. It was literally my childhood, alongside Mario 64 for the DS, which is my favourite game of all time. To be honest, I would rank this one first if it wasn't for the Goliath that is in the first place spot. Okay, so I've only done 2 ranking videos before, and both of them had painfully anticlimactic number 1 picks. I need to embrace my citrus law and rank all the fruits and put something like pomegranates at number 1 next video just to be different. Anyway, how could I not put this giant at number 1? Yeah, it has flaws like the plasticky booster pass and Pink Gold Peach, but it's still the most content-rich Mario Kart by a mile. And it's wild to think the Wii U version was such a flop, and then Deluxe turned it all around to become the 6th highest selling game of all time. Honestly, there's so much good here that it's hard to pick just one thing. And I don't need to. You already know why this game is great. You've seen all the videos. Most of you own it for goodness sakes. And if you don't, well, please support our small indie company, Nintendo, by spending a nice round $80 on the full game plus DLC. I know you want to. What you also need to do is like, subscribe, hype the video, whatever that means, share it with your pet goldfish so they also buy Mario Kart 8, and drop your own ranking in the comments so we can compare opinions. Though, I'll warn you now, mine's the only correct one.